Gonna hit rec All right, welcome back to another fun empowerment session, you guys. It is halfway through the week. It is Wednesday. Happy hump day. As Nikki Walsh at Fit would say it, Wednesdays we wear pink. Just don't tell her I have no pink on today. And I hope you guys all had a fabulous day. The week has gone really well so far. We've had a couple of bumps along the way, but you guys have been troopers about it. Monday, we had a fun social media session. Yesterday, we talked about the Spine Alley app, which I thought is a super great resource. I hope you guys loved it as much as I did. Today, we're going to have just a really casual chat about traveling. I'm going to share a little bit about my travel job, things that kind of keep me successful, and like how traveling kind of got my independence back. Tomorrow, we will have Lindsay, who is another member of our board, and she's just going to have a really nice community support group chat. Something that she does on her own time is a Wheel Mothers chat. And so she's going to kind of expand that for the foundation, and we're going to just have a nice little fun, safe place to chat tomorrow. And then Friday, we are going to end the week with a fun DJ session. So if you have not signed up yet, please do. Tony Jacobson is a ball of energy. He plays the best music. You just kind of sit there and jam, and he always has a lot of positive, motivating things to say during that time. So if you're ever struggling to kind of feel good and you need that little energy boost, Friday session is going to be the one for you guys. So thank you guys all for coming again and donating your time to Wheel With Me Foundation. Today I'm keeping it super duper informal. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to hear what kind of questions you guys had about traveling. I know Shamika's a pretty seasoned traveler, so she might not have too much, but I would love to have her input along the way. But if there's anyone else that has questions about how Jesse and I travel or um, what makes us successful, places that we've gone, anything travel related. Doesn't even have to be flying. It could be like road trips. We've taken plenty of road trips. One thing I have not really had too much experience in is train travel or bus travel. So I really can't give input on those two things. But when it comes to flying and road tripping, I do have some things that I want to share. I have a small little outline. I did not make a PowerPoint presentation. I wanted to reduce the amount of screen sharing that we had. So if I can avoid any interruptions, I'm going to just do that. And so I thought the best way for that was just kind of keeping it casual. So just to kind of start out, I'm just going to give a little intro about who I am. Most of you guys kind of already really familiar with me. My name's Brianna. I run Wheel With Me Foundation. I've been working with the foundation for about 4 to 5 years now. I started remotely in Wisconsin. I was an attendee just like you guys. I came for a whole year straight, the first year of empowerment. I think it was 2021 when Jesse and Jackie had started this. And I just kept coming back, kept coming back. I kept showing up for myself and my community, putting in input, sharing my thoughts. And finally, Jesse's like, "You're really good at, working with the community. Do you want to help the foundation?" And so I did. It was something that I was working on in college and it just really meant a lot to me. And so I started helping out remotely. Within 6 to 7 months, Jesse had convinced me to uproot my life and move to North Carolina. Um, and that's where I'm at now. So I'm in North Carolina. I apologize for the dog barking in the back if you can hear that. We have a husky puppy here and he is very vocal around dinner time. So my apologies if you hear that. If I need to repeat anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going. Um, but Wheel With Me Foundation is based in the Charlotte area, but we do help everywhere, right? And so that's kind of where the travel aspect comes into place. We Jessie has sponsorships and she was doing a lot of adaptive sports in the beginning. And so along the way, when she's traveling for curling or racing or Tough Mudders and stuff, what she would do is she would get the community together. And so she was always road tripping, she was flying. So she got really well versed in how to be independent on the road by herself. I mean, it was to the point where for affordability during her curling season, she was staying and camping at little KOAs on the side of the like, little camping sites, right? So she even got really successful in how to like car camp and car travel, which is really tricky as a wheelchair user, let alone, a regular person. Um, and so that's kind of how I became a part of the Wheel With Me community. Since then, we have just kind of continued to grow the mission. We try to still do our meetups and travel whenever we can. We go to the Abilities Expos, we go to the Rollettes or other events that kind of fit really well into the community and just kind of spread the word. So we're driving to these things and we're flying all over the country. And so in the last few years, I've gotten really comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess is the best way to put that. Um, when I first started traveling with Jesse, I was very new, not well versed in anything, and very nervous about all of the aspects. I actually remember one of the first times I ever messaged Jesse on Instagram, it was a travel question. And I was like, well, with how much you fly, aren't you scared of your chair getting damaged? And her response back was, I just don't even put that in my mind. She's like, I just don't even think about it. I just don't even bother with it until it happens. And then we kind of worry about it then. She's like, but it really doesn't happen as often as you think. And so just seeing that her outlook on things was just a little bit different than everyone else's. I was like, okay, so maybe if I start looking at this a little bit more positively, my experience will be a little bit more positive. And Um, my first solo flight was actually coming out to North Carolina to meet Jessie. So her and I had already talked about living together and moving in together. So we wanted to like make sure that we were going to mesh well. So I flew out here, spend a couple weeks with her to make sure that we were going to be fitting roommates. It was my first flight alone. I had to manage getting through a couple connection flights by myself. I made it here. I was like, how are two wheelchair users going to get my wheelchair in the car? And it was just, I was so nervous. And it was just very cool because when she arrived at the airport to pick me up, she comes to the typical drop-off pickup location, where it's moving really fast and you got cars coming in and out. This lady pops out of the driver's seat in the middle of the pickup drop-off spot, gets into her wheelchair, helps me with my luggage, helps get the chair into the trunk, and just has no fear, no shame. And she's like, I'm just gonna do it. I was not the first wheelchair user she brought to North Carolina, obviously, so this wasn't her first time doing this. But it was just so cool to see the amount of confidence she had picking me up at the airport, not even worrying about the traffic coming in and out. And it was really cool and eye-opening. So that first trip went really, really well. And after Jesse and I move in together, I kind of just hit the ground rolling really fast, like straight downhill, no brakes, full send. Um, Actually, the day that I moved in, I flew from Wisconsin to North Carolina, hopped in her car. We didn't even go home to drop off my stuff. We drove straight to Florida. We road trip to Florida, my very first day of living with Jesse, and spent 4 days on the road before even going home. Um, and so that's kind of how my travel experience started. I was just kind of tossed into it. I had no choice but to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Um, since then, I started traveling. Like I said, for the foundation, we go to all these fun wheelchair events. I had the opportunity to connect with a company called AMF Bruns of America, and now I work full time for them. So now I actually travel full time for work. So almost every single week outside of this beginning season of healing from my wound, um, I've been in a different city every single week, all over the country. Um, and it's a lot, and I learned a lot throughout the last year and a half. I learned a lot about flying standby. I learned a lot about missing connections, trying to figure out how to sleep in an airport, a lot of crazy things. So, and these are just like a little things that I wanted to kind of share with you guys. And Danielle, else do I like it? Traveling for my job. Yes, I love it. It makes me feel really empowered because you don't see wheelchair users traveling like this, being a traveling salesman or consultant or coming in and out of cities all the time. And I like doing this because I can show other wheelchair users that they can do this too, right? As long as we're keeping our bodies safe, prioritizing health and like rest and recovery on those non-travel days or on the downtime when you are on the road and utilizing that, there's really no reason why anyone can't do this. I mean, yes, everyone's disability is a little bit different. Everyone's needs are going to be a little bit different. Someone is going to have a trickier time making that a full-time role. But I mean, look at Curb Free Corey. his full-time job is traveling and he's an electric wheelchair user. He has no hand function. He can't even transfer himself, right? And if he can make a full-time living out of traveling, like y'all, we can just go on vacation. You know what I mean? Like, don't be scared to even just take a weekend off and try to find a new place and go to the beach or try out the mountains, you know? And so I really do enjoy it. There is times though, Danielle, where it gets to be a lot. It gets to be a lot. So I really lean on my downtime. So with my job, I'm not like when I'm traveling, I do have the opportunity most of the time to kind of have half a day off or have the evening off, especially when I'm traveling alone. If I'm traveling alone without my colleagues, I don't really have to worry about going out to dinner with them at the end of the night. And not saying that to sound rude or anything, but that gives me the opportunity to eat in bed at the hotel room, right? To kind of get out of my chair, relax my back, do some tummy time, get some stretching in. So when I travel alone, that's kind of what I lean on. In between events, I'm popping back to my hotel, I'm flipping over onto my tummy, stretching out my back, trying to get as many minutes of that as I can. In the morning, Jessie taught me that to kind of start my day out with mobility. So one thing I picked up from her is right away before I even get out of bed is to kind of roll over on that tummy, focus on those I's, Y's, and T's, stretch out those shoulders, just kind of start your day with a little bit of mobility. So it kind of helps you stay feeling well oiled as the day goes on. Um, but at the moment, I am young enough to have the opportunity to travel and to share that with the community. So I'm going to do it as long as I can. I don't want to do it forever because I want to be able to be home with my boyfriend and my family and my have more animals consistently. And you can't have like 500 dogs if you're on the road all the time. Um, but yes, I really do enjoy traveling. And I think even not even for a job. I think traveling is just a really cool experience. Like I said, even just taking a day trip to like Minnesota or finding it, even if like Florida's a huge state, just going from one end of Florida to the next one day, like that would be so cool. I mean, I lived in Wisconsin for almost 30 years and I never even hit the north top of it. I never went to the top half of it where it's so pretty, you know? So like why not just take advantage of what you have. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be air travel, it could be road trips. Jesse has kind of taught me how to Tetris pack the trunk. When you have two wheelchair users, you have a lot of stuff and you have to manipulate all of these things. And so along the way, I remember the first time I packed the car, I just kind of tossed everything in there and only half the stuff fit. And I'm like, man, how am I gonna make this work? And Jessie came out and she looked at what I did and she just shook her head, pulled everything out, and she's like, all right, I want you to pay attention to how I do this. And she repacked it in a way that made sense and that made everything fit. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, okay. Now I do see why we do it that way. And so it was really cool to have someone like her who's already figured out how to do these things kind of teach me and fast track it, right? I didn't have to spend 2, 3 years learning how to pack my car. It took me a half an hour because Jesse already had that time invested into it. So, um, let me see what else I have in my notes. Um, so some tips that keep me successful. Planning ahead. When it comes to my work travel, I don't always have control of booking my hotels. We actually have a travel and trade show coordinator for work, and so she helps the team kind of book a lot of the travel when it comes to the lodging. So I'm not always in charge of that, but she's very, very mindful of always trying to get an accessible room with a roll-in shower. If we can't get the roll-in shower, we still push for an accessibility room. She knows that I need at least a shower chair. Um, so if you do want to try to travel for work and you have a team helping you out, just speak your needs to them. Let them know like what kind of plans that you have, and do have a plan B and a plan C just in case. Um, I usually cath on the toilet, but I also have the opportunity to have connectable bags that attach to my catheters. So say I end up in a hotel room where the toilet seat's a little wobbly or it's not accessible that first night and they don't have that option to change it right away. I still have that tool to where I can now cath in bed and I don't necessarily have to panic about that accessibility. So I try to find little tips and tricks and plan Bs to keep myself ready just in case something like that happens. Because unfortunately, I don't know why hotels will always just give you the handicap rooms out like candy before, 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, man, I just checked in and I've had this booked and they're like, oh, we just gave it away. Never makes sense. So plan for things like that because it's going to happen. And the only way to prevent it from happening or to kind of reduce it is to keep traveling. The more that we put ourselves in those uncomfortable situations and the more we kind of show the travel tourist industry, like what we need and what is more acceptable, they're not going to know what to do, right? So like instead of getting mad about not getting the right room or them doing something, just explain to them, be like, hey, like I can't use the other room because of the bathroom size and my wheelchair not fitting, or for how high or low the toilet is. Like, do you want me to fall off the toilet and possibly break a bone? Like, I don't think we want that kind of liability. And so when we kind of educate them more, they're just like, oh, now I see why this is important, right? And so sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. Um, and it's nice for us to kind of help and guide them along the way. So when it comes to planning ahead, I do my best to just have all my airline apps in advance, figure out what days I need to be. I like to add all of my travel plans right into um, my phone. And so right now I have things kind of color coordinated, but I'll show you all of the little blue tabs are my travel plans. And inside of those events, I keep my hotel information, I keep my confirmation, I keep any details I need to know about work. If it's a trade show, because last year I was doing a lot of trade shows, this year it's going to be a little bit more of a different setup. But last year I put all of that trade show information, what time I needed to be there, setup, breakdown, contacts, so that like if something happened, bam, I just have to go into my little calendar note and it's just all there. So that's one thing that really helped me stay successful on the road is utilizing that organization tool with the calendar and just putting in all those notes. That was one way that I stayed really prepared. When I pack, I make a packing list. So I don't just start throwing things into my suitcase. I actually take the time to like write a list down, figure out what I'm going to need, how many of each. And then I look at it for at least 10 minutes and figure out if I missed anything. Because I get so squirrely brained, especially at the end of the night when I feel like I'm trying to do 100 things with my last hour. I don't want to forget something important. So I always try to write it all down. And then I use that list as a guide. Like put it in the suitcase, cross it off. Put it in the suitcase, cross it off, or check it off. Sometimes I even go as far as packing that list so that on my way home, I don't forget anything. So like if I know I'm doing like an ambassador thing, like for the Abilities Expo, if I know that I'm bringing stuff for WellSpec or bringing WellSpec products or different display items, I write that down to make sure I don't forget it at the end of the weekend. So having that tool kind of prepares me not only getting there, but coming home successfully, not forgetting anything important behind. God forbid you guys put like your toilet cushers on the toilet seat. You're in a rush to leave and you forget them, and now your $90 cushion cover is like in a hotel that you're not going back to. So if you're squirrely brain like that, like I am, that's just a way that I prepare myself. Um, we have a question from Marty. Um, oh, and we have one from Dawn. Packing cubes. Yep, packing cubes is something I was going to bring up. Fantastic. If you have not utilized packing cubes, for any kind of travel, even just for like weekend trips or short trips and cart road trips, they're amazing. I like to organize mine by outfits. So I have like a work packing cube. So all my work outfits are all rolled together. And then I have my casual packing cube or like my toiletries and workout clothes and stuff like that. So yes, Dawn, amazing. Also, if you don't roll your clothes when you pack them, please start rolling your clothes. You save so much space, and it makes everything nice, neat, and organized. So that is amazing. That is a great tip, Dawn. I'm glad that you also utilize packing cubes. And so Marty's question was, since wheelchair users are the last ones off the plane, do we ever get nervous with connecting flights, or being on the other side of the terminal? Yes, yes, we do. That's a great question, Marty. So when you're booking stuff ahead of time, I try to look at those connecting flights and times in advance. I usually don't book a flight with a connection any less than like 90 minutes, because even 90 minutes is still pretty tight for a wheelchair user who has to kind of use the restroom at the airport. Um, so anything less than 90 minutes is very, very tight. I usually try to do 2 hours, just because then I have a little bit more time. But yeah, there is a few times where I have stress panicked um, about making it. Another option, though, a lot of wheelchair users kind of fuss about being the first on the plane. in which makes sense. We have that right. We do have that right to be the first on the plane. But let me tell you guys that I've flown standby so often. And if you guys aren't familiar with standby, it's where you get put on a list, and you get a fly for free, um, if there is an empty seat. So my boyfriend works for Delta, so I have his companion ticket, and so I'm able to fly standby. Now, with standby, whether you're in a wheelchair or not, you still have to be last on. They have to put all the paid people on before you. So unfortunately, I've got very used to being loaded on last. And so it's very uncomfortable being pulled through the airplane with all the people sitting down in their seats already and being like, excuse me, sorry, elbow, like, oh, I like that movie you're watching. I try to have fun with it. I really just be like, oh, I've seen that movie. How cool. Like, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to boop you. Make it fun, be polite, be kind. But that will give you some extra time, Marty. So there was a really tight connection that I was making when I went to the CrossFit Games. I landed, I got to my gate. They were just getting ready to start boarding, but I still needed to use the restroom. And I told her, I was like, hey, I need to use the restroom. Is it okay if you put me on last? She's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I really need to use the restroom. So if you can start boarding, I don't want to hold up the process or the time. You can put me on last. She's like, yeah, that's fine. Use the restroom and come back. So I actually went to the restroom, got my stuff done, made it back to the gate before they were done boarding, was on last, still made my flight. So be flexible. It may not always be an option, but it's worth a try. And so like I went to the gate and I was just like, is this gonna work? And she's like, if you want to, that's fine. Um, so I have done that before. But yeah, try to be mindful with those connections and try to give yourself at least an hour and a half, especially if it's a bigger airport where you know you're going to have to go to another terminal or ride a train. Um, Atlanta, always give yourself at least 90 minutes. That place is chaos. Um, Detroit is a really fun place to stop in. So if you have the opportunity to connect in Detroit, that is my favorite place to go. They are very kind with the wheelchair. The staff that handles the wheelchair is one of the best airports that I've stopped at in terms of listening to our needs, putting it on the plane, X, Y, and Z. So Detroit, Detroit is on the top of the list. Um, Dawn also said that she put a tracker on her wheelchair so she was able to find it when she's on the plane. Yes. Also smart thing, if you have an option to zip tie a air tag on there, that's something that Jesse and I do as well. Not only do we have them on our chairs, Dawn, but I also have one on Jesse's like backpack or keyring. I also have the location for her cell phone because if I don't track her in 700 ways, I feel stressed out. But it's always nice to have someone else have that location too, Dawn. So if you don't already share that location with either your mom, your sister, or someone else, you can share those tags with other Apple users. So then you know if you're a little bit safer, if you're especially if you're traveling alone like me. That's why Jesse and I know where each other's chairs are at all times. So just in case our phone gets lost, she still has access to my chair. If the chair gets lost, she still has access to my wallet, which is going to be on me. Um, we try to go above and beyond just because of how often we do travel and just we're in so many different cities and with the chaos of life, you just want to be extra, extra safe.
Are there any particular, like you said that you like Detroit a lot for as an airport? Are
Yes,
there particular airports that you try to avoid if possible?
Atlanta.
Or Atlanta, that's the only one.
Atlanta is very hard to get in and out of. And then I really hate flying into LA. It's just that's
That's
also chaos and it just is no fun. Those are the two worst experiences that I've had. Orlando can get a little tricky because of the Disney crowd, depending on the time of the day and the weather.
Mhm.
But most of the other ones I've been to have been pretty good. Like I said, Detroit gave me some really great experiences. Minneapolis is always really great for me to stop into. I've had always really great luck with that one. And then selfishly, I like those little tiny regional airports. I don't mind if I have to make a couple connections if I can get from the start to the gate in 20 minutes. Like my colleague, he lives in Indiana and so he goes to a small regional airport and it literally time he parks his car to sitting down at the gate takes him maybe 20 minutes through the whole thing. And that's very rare. Very rare.
That's
Um,
true. I remember that from being able-bodied in some of those small ones, but I've been injured for nearly 3 years, and I've never even tried air travel because we've been too nervous.
yeah, and that's kind of why I do it is because I want to show people, yeah, it's scary and yes, you can't like my chair has gotten broken. I'll get to that in a little bit. but all of the things are kind of worth the risks, right? Like you kind of have to weigh those pros and cons. And for you having an electric chair, I can see where those cons would be a little bit heavier than mine.
Mhm.
So I don't blame you for being a little more hesitant on that whatsoever. But
Mhm.
once you kind of find a system that works for you and like find a a preventative plan that fits your chair and your needs better, it kind of makes it easier. I
Mhm.
have some electric wheelchair friends who they like bubble wrap certain pieces, or they're able to, if you travel
Mhm.
with your husband, maybe he can take a couple of the important pieces off. I'm not sure how flexible that kind of stuff is with because I haven't worked with those kind of chairs before, but
No
if
idea.
you guys could find something that worked best for you, I would
Mhm.
do that. And also start small, right? Don't take a big giant trip, Laura. Try just popping over to a couple
Mhm.
small places, seeing how it goes, build that confidence up, and then be like, okay, we're gonna do this. Um,
Yeah, I was also going to look into getting a smaller electric chair because
oh yeah.
I do have a manual chair I could travel with, but I'm just not as comfortable in it day to day. But I was looking into getting like a wheelchair or something that would be a lot easier to travel with.
Yeah, they do have, I've seen them in the last couple of years where it's like a little electric chair. They're kind of squarish and they kind of fold up and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There was a, girl that I followed. I think her name was Missy. She had some hand surgeries a couple years ago, and that's the kind of chair they put her in. I was like, wow, that's actually really lightweight, foldable, collapsible. I was like, that is a really great option. I don't know how sturdy and durable they will be for whatever kind of travel you plan on doing. So if you're planning on like going hiking or somewhere with a lot of cobblestone, maybe that might be a little more tricky with that type of chair.
Mhm.
But just be
Yeah.
mindful of that.
Yeah. But anything has to be more comfortable than being in the manual all day because I'm a seasick.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to hurt your body,
Mhm.
kink your neck or kink your back. That is just not worth it, not worth it all. So,
Okay. Good to know. Avoid Atlanta at all costs.
yes, yes, if you can, if you absolutely can. I don't know anything about the other big ones like LaGuardia or like things like that, but if I hear of anything, I'll let you know. Maybe Shamika has some input on JFK or LaGuardia at all. I'm not sure. I feel like that would be her area where she'd kind of fly out of. I'm not sure. We'll see if she pops in a minute. Um, Dawn had an or Danielle had another comment. Transitioning to a manual chair when she travel by plane, you can't afford the wheel. Okay, when you travel by plane and you can't afford the wheel assistance for a while because it's so expensive, how am I going to wheel myself to bring my luggage and carry on? I think. Um, Mm, Okay, Danielle. So when you get to the airport, you automatically get assistance. You don't have to pay for anything. So if you show up to the gate and you just need assistance, just look for an airport staff and be like, "Hi, I need help with my luggage. Can you help me get to the Southwest check-in?" Someone will help you. Most airlines have actual wheelchair teams and actual wheelchair desks and stuff. I mostly stick with American and Delta. Um, for safety reasons, because once you kind of get to the lower ones, I just feel like that's not as safe. I don't know why I feel like that, but I'm just like, I'm just gonna stick with these two bigger airlines. Southwest I also trust. Um, but they will help you with your luggage. They will help you check in. They will push you if you need like assistance pushing and like actually getting pushed through the airport. They will push you through the airport. All of the above. That doesn't cost any money, Danielle. That is a service provided through the airport, to even old ladies who can walk. So um, don't even worry about the cost of that. So if that's something that you are worried about, don't worry about that. And then when it comes to the cost of like luggage and stuff, if majority of your luggage includes medical supplies, your luggage flies for free. Do not pay to fly with your or do not pay to fly your shower chair. Do not pay for your suitcases that you check. Tell them that is medical supplies and that the fees should be waived. The first time I traveled, I did not know that, and I paid in advance. I paid for two or three checked bags, which included my shower chair once I showed up to the airport. The sweet African American woman was like, "Oh, honey, no. Oh, baby, I wish you wouldn't have done that." And it was just the funniest thing. She's like, and she's like, "I can't give you a refund." She's like, and that's the only problem. She's like, I wish I could give you a refund, but that's not how luggage works. So she's like, next time, tell them, like, this is medical stuff. It goes for free. She's like, we could have saved you all this money, honey. It was so sweet. So if you are traveling with those kind of adaptive things, you don't have to pay for that. Don't worry about that. So that's also really great. And that staff, when you land in your destination, they can help get you out to the curb, to the person who's picking you up. I see people getting, because I usually take Ubers and Lyfts home and where I travel, I always see the staff taking the wheelchair, like the hospital or excuse me, the airline wheelchair straight out to the curb. They stay with that individual until they're safely in the car and then they go. So if you need assistance throughout the entire process, that is an option. I personally don't get the help. I'm independent enough to where I want to save that for someone else who might need it. And so I drop off my checked luggage. I have my carry-on duffel or backpack on my back, and I try to just stay independent. They always do ask, now if I might have an extra piece of carry-on luggage, it's really hard for me to manage. There is rare occasions if there's like a hill coming up or something, I'll be like, yeah, I need a little bit of assistance going up this hill. But then I try to take over. Like I said, I'm a little more independent and I want to save that service for someone who might need it a little more than I do. Um, so that's something that you should no longer be nervous about. Don't worry about that. We got you. There's so much help. Um, Detroit was good for Dawn. I'm so glad to hear that. That is great. What's it called? Marty said that they were flying through Atlanta. We looked at the TV. Next flight was once we found it. It switched gates. Yeah, and that is something to be mindful of. Sometimes, depending on the time of the day, especially early in the morning, they will switch the gates. So sometimes you go to bed at night saying A6, and they will switch that at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and now you have to plan something else. So definitely, and to help with that, Marty, is getting the app. So if you can, whatever airline that you're traveling, download that app onto your phone. So I always use the apps to check in early, to see where my flights are going, to see what gates I'm going to be in. Um, the Delta app, I haven't seen it on the other ones, but I know for sure the Delta app has it. If you have a connecting flight, they actually have a feature that will give you a map from gate to gate. So say that I was taking a connecting flight in Chicago and I had to get from A16 over to D whatever, I could put that into my phone and click on those things and it'll pull up a map and it'll direct me through the airport. I've done that with the Charlotte one, and it even tells me one of the terminals in Charlotte, you have to actually go down in escalators or elevators. And even in the instructions, it tells you go to this elevator, go down this escalator, dot dot dot. So look for those features in your apps too, because that is a really good way to get that constant change information. Um, and it is tough. I know that traveling, especially when you're new, is super scary. I have, like I said, I have slept in airports because of standby. I have almost got my luggage stolen from me in LA. I have spent hours and hours in different airports just trying to get home. I've had to bounce to 3 different airports just to get back to Charlotte. Again, my that situation's standby, so it's a little bit different than typical flying and typical travel, but I have had every type of travel thing come up and I've made it work. In the moment, it's really, really hard and really stressful. Jake and Jesse can kind of speak on that. I don't do well in the moment with plan changes or things that come up, and I just kind of panic. And so I always lean on them. I call them, I'm like, I can't figure out this flight. I don't know if I'm going to get in there, and da 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 da. And so usually they're like, all right, look for what you can control. What can you do? Who can you reach out to? Um, which leads me into another tip that I wanted to share with you guys. It's I know it's really hard to stay calm in these kind of situations, but please be mindful of the staff that's around you, right? Like if your plane was delayed or there's a canceled flight because of weather or something along that lines, do not take your frustration out on the staff that's trying to help, right? Because it's not their fault. They're just doing their job and they're the only person that can actually help try to find a solution. And the kinder you treat them, the more apt there are to give you solutions that fit for you. If you start being rude to these gate agents or these travel associates, they're not going to help you. They're going to shut down and they're just going to be done with it. So one thing I have learned is even when I'm super frustrated or the connections aren't working, I go up to that gate agent. Hi, how you doing? How's your day going? How have you been? Here's what I'm going through. Is there anything that we can do? And then if they can help me or not, to say thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Just that kind communication will really go a long way in those stressful moments. Um, Danielle shared that that's her area too, the stressful power chair. And I wish I had more tips with the power chair stuff. Like I said, I do have friends that are in them, bubble wrapping things, disengaging the battery so they can't move it around, leaving a laminated instruction sheet on them. I've seen people laminate instructions on how to utilize it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that doesn't work. They took mine off,
yep,
took the battery apart, broke the brand new power chair, $8,000. I still have my loaner.
yep.
It's a nightmare, complete nightmare. And this is the fourth time in a year just to get to MD Anderson to
Mhm.
Texas. And I can't deal with the stress anymore. That's why I'm getting the manual. So I can pop off the wheels, bring them on the flight with me because it was just like, this is out of control. They're lifting it in JFK. They're lifting it because there's no elevator. And I didn't know there was an elevator.
Oh,
So that's the main issue with JFK. In Texas, when I go there, they have an elevator, it comes right up in 2 seconds.
yeah.
For JFK, takes an
Wow.
hour,
When
and
you
it
say
gets
elevator,
lost. And then
you mean the elevator that gets the cargo in and out?
the actual elevator, like an elevator to go up and down. They don't have an elevator to manually um
Get the chair from
use
the
get the
ground into
chair.
the.
They have to lift it, and it's 300, 400 pounds, and that's where it
I
broke.
see what you're saying now. Okay.
And it's just
Wow.
too stressful now.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of the adjustments that we got to make, Danielle. So if that's been like the biggest barrier for you, like finding that manual chair or maybe avoiding that airport, right? Like I know JFK and LaGuardia are kind of close. Maybe the other one's not as bad. Maybe flying out of a different one. Ooh, did Shamika pop in? Hey, Shamika, do you have anything to say about LaGuardia or JFK? I was hoping you might.
I actually, earlier in the chat, you said, you don't do a lot of train travel. I'm actually the opposite. I probably haven't been on a plane in a very long time.
Oh,
I travel by train pretty much everywhere.
okay.
Um, so I've never been to LaGuardia or, JFK or any of those. I think probably the only time, the last time I was on a plane was like in college when I was in LAX, and that was probably the last uh plane I've been to. But I've traveled the last several years, at least since COVID. I've only traveled by train. Um, it actually, when I came out to North Carolina last year, that was by train as well. So I don't have anything to say about the airports, but if you have any questions about trains, I can definitely talk about that or answer
Um,
questions.
Honestly, if you don't mind sharing just a couple, you don't have to spend too much time on it. But if you don't mind sharing like why you choose to do trains, the co is it more affordable? And then what's your experience with it? How are they with your chair? What's the bathroom situation like? Those are just the kind of questions that I would have if you're willing to answer.
Absolutely, no problem. So the main reason that I choose trains is two of the things that you said: accessible bathroom, and I can stay in my chair. So there's no damage to my chair. There's no where's my chair. There's no they lost my chair. They broke my chair. All the things that we usually have to deal with, unfortunately, when we're flying. Um, so those are the two reasons why I choose train, because bathroom is accessible, at least for Amtrak, because that's what I use out here. If you're doing, international and stuff like that, that you might have other experiences, but I haven't done any international train travel as of yet. But so those are the main two uh reasons that I stick with trains. It is cheaper usually than flying. The only thing that people you may have issues with is the length of time of travel. If you have a condition where you can't really, I have a chair, my chair I can reposition, I can recline and things like that. So like the North Carolina trip from New York, because I live in New York and Albany, that was about a 13-hour trip for me on the train. Um, but I can recline in my chair. I can actually get out of my chair if I want to, but I usually stay in my chair. So when you get on, when you buy your ticket, it asks you, look, like I said, this is Amtrak. It asks you, are you a person in a chair, whatever, and you tell them right away. So they ask you, do you need assistance? So they have the red cap service. And these people, they call them red caps because they're wearing all red. And they'll help you with your bags if you need it. And then they also have a ramp that they attach to wherever you're going to sit. You roll on to the ramp, and there's a space right there for your chair. You just roll there, sit there. Another thing that sometimes people have problems with is you're not fastened into anything. So you can move around if you want to. Some people have a problem with that. I personally like that I can move around, that I'm not, like on a bus usually, or in a car, you might be strapped down or something. But I like it. I mean, I've rarely had any issues. I think one time, like, my suitcase got broken because the guy like was trying to like put the handle down, and that I think that's probably the only issue that I've had on a train. Um, but yeah, so I just love it. And like I said, the two longest trips that I've had is probably, North Carolina. And then I'm actually getting ready to take this trip again this summer. I went to Michigan for Miss Wheelchair Nationals, and it's going to be in Michigan again this year. And that was a 26-hour train ride. Again, if you have issues with length of time and not being able to be, in your chair, it might not be for you. But like I said, I can recline in my chair, and my chair flattens out that like it's a bed. I'll sleep in my chair. I can do that. You can also, if you want to spend a little bit more money, you can get an accessible room.
I was going to ask if the Amtraks have the sleeper. Are you talking about
Yeah, you
sleeper
can
class?
get the sleeper if you want to spend a little bit more money. Like I said, because my chair flattens out like a bed, I usually just, stay in the chair. If that's not comfortable for you, you may want to spend the extra money and get a room. Um, yeah, so that's
And I'm not 100% sure, but I think Amtrak, at least from what I've researched, I think you can go from like the top east down to almost Florida. I don't know if you can go all the way from Florida all the way up. I know there's a disconnect somewhere. Because I was trying to get my boyfriend Jake to do the train for camp, which is Florida to Maine. And I know somewhere there's a disconnect, so we couldn't get the whole way. But for the most part, you can do like the whole East Coast, and then I think there is options to go all the way across the coast. Coast to coast, I should say. Um, so that is another really great option. So thank you so much, Shamika, for sharing that. I've actually been wanting to try train travel. I think it would be just a fun experience to do that.
yeah. I mean, and people are, always, nice. I mean, if you don't like a lot of noise and talk, you can always like get the quiet car early in the morning, there's nobody, but usually there's like families, and, sometimes occasionally you'll get, families traveling. So they have little kids. So there might be some crying babies, or, you know, kids kind of walking back and forth. If that irritates you, you probably want to get a quiet car uh situation. But everybody's usually really nice, and I've never had any issues with people. I've had, ladies, mothers, share their snacks with me, you know. So, everybody's usually very,
I
very
love
nice,
that. I love that.
you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, Shamika. And then Dawn said that she knows the tracks go through St. Louis. That's great. So at least you know you can get through like at least part of the country. And I know they have some on the West Coast too. I'm just not sure how they all connect because I know some of them don't connect. So thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. But we only have a few minutes left, so I do want to share just a couple last minute things. Um, Last tip for flying that I would have, if you can afford it, TSA pre-check. It's $80, good for like 8 years. It skips the pat down. You don't have to take off your shoes. You don't have to get your full body pat down. They swab your hands, they swab your chair. You move on with your day. So if you do want to start traveling a whole lot more, and you don't want to wait in the regular security line and get that full uncomfortable touchy pat down, that is always worth the investment to me. With how often that I fly, it's already broken down to like less than $1 per flight for the cost of pre-check. So some favorite tools that kind of keep that I like traveling with. I like my travel toilet cushions. So especially if anyone follows me on social media, y'all know that I had recently had a cellulitis infection on my butt that was turned into a wound, cut out, and I'm still healing from that. It's doing really great. I've been keeping up with my protein and my collagen, which has been essential for healing. But on top of that, I added toilet seat cushions to my toilet. And so I have a K cushion, which is one solid piece, which I actually gave to Jessie so she could have one at her house as well. And then Amazon has a set where it's two separate pieces that go on each side. I actually like those a lot, especially for traveling. They fit better in my luggage. I can try to find the link for them because I got them, geez, like 4 years ago. So I can try to find a link for them. If I do, I'll add it to this. So cushion covers to help keep your tushy safe. I now start traveling with little travel packs of Lysol wipes because of the infection and the germs, and with how often I'm in airports, ladies and gents who watch this on the recording, please clean up those toilet seats. You don't know who's been sitting on it. You don't know how clean they are. Infections are not worth it. Being in the hospital for like over 2 weeks was not worth it. So Jesse and I now travel with Lysol wipes. I love Yes, yes. And that we talked about the travel cubes. Cubes are great, really make it easy. Roll your clothes, saves on space. Um, when I travel alone, I get a duffel that fits right on my lap. So I have an Adidas duffel that I've had for like 7 years, just normal duffel. It fits all of my stuff in there. And so like when I'm going from my Uber into the airport to the drop it off or from like the luggage pickup area back outside, it fits right on my lap. I'm able to wheel with it. That works out really well. There's also a adaptive suitcase bag called the Phoenix bag. I will link that as well with a code with Jesse's discount code. Those can be a little more pricey. So just beware those start out at like 200-300 bucks. But they clip right onto your chair and you don't have to worry about anything. They're actually really, really cool. I call it Jesse's dinosaur tail.
And
Um,
it doesn't matter which chair you have.
no, they have different attachments for different chairs.
Cool.
They have different like
Excellent.
plates. They have plates that you can put on chairs. They have different connections for electric chairs or manual. And I'm sure if you email them and let them know what kind of chair that you have, they'd be able to let you know what the best option is. Yeah, so I'll give you that. I'll have that link in the post-event email, Danielle. I travel with a wolf pack. It's a backpack. It's expensive. It's a little more pricey. It's about 100 bucks, but I can fit my whole life into it. It weighs normally like at least 30 to 40 pounds when it's on my back, but I fit everything in there. So that's my carry-on bag. I have extra supplies. I have an extra. You're muted, Danielle. Did you have a question? Or are you just really excited about it? Um, Go ahead and unmute if you had something to say. Go ahead. I get really excited when I'm in Jesse's coaching calls and she's like, "Bree, you're muted. Do you have something to say?" And I'm just like, "No, I'm just really loving it." Um,
I'm looking for the link that I sent you, the toilet bowl covers that I use,
yes.
because I'm OCD with that. So
Yes.
that's what I'm looking at. So I
Yes.
can link
Thank
it for
you.
you guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll attach that in the email later as well. Thank you. Um, And so like my wolf pack, it's a little bit more pricey. I haven't had it rip. I haven't had a tear. I haven't had anything go wrong with it. It's been really durable. I can fit 4 or 5 days of supplies in it, my laptop, my books, my cords, my headphones, and occasionally even like an extra outfit, all my snacks. Huge bag, worth the investment. that is one thing that keeps me really successful is having everything in that bag. So just in case something happens, I'm stuck in the airport longer, I know that I have everything that I need. Um, portable grabber bars or portable grabber thingies are also really great. Me and Jesse occasionally will travel with those if we're going to be in a location for quite a long time. And the last thing that I wanted to share is my catheter, and I don't think I have one in my pocket, but my low fric L keeps me able to travel successfully. Now, this is just my personal experience, and everyone's body is different, but the medical supplies you use are very instrumental for your independence and your health. Prior to using low fric L, I would have UTIs all the time, and I would have to travel with Foley catheters in, which would create more UTIs. And it was just really hard for me to travel. In general. And so one thing that I have found is switching catheters. Once I switched to a different medical product, I didn't have any more UTIs. They're really small and compact. I can fit 2 or 3 weeks worth in my duffel without it taking up a lot of space. The boxes of catheters for 30 is smaller than this little box of noodles that you see right here. So they're really small. Again, I use the restroom on the toilet. I have good hand dexterity, so it's a little different for me. Everyone's needs are a little different, but that was another really big piece of my independence was being able to use that low fric L catheter and being able to travel more and not have my supplies take up an entire suitcase. Because I used to use the closed system kits, and when I would travel, I would have a whole duffel bag of just closed systems, and it was just exhausting. So being able to adapt and grow into new products is always a fun challenge. So if you guys are ever looking to kind of push yourself out of that zone or have the ability to do that or want to try that, reach out. Me and Jesse, we help kind of support that kind of stuff. So we have a couple minutes left. I just kind of rambled the last few minutes. Any final questions, comments about your own travel? I got this link from Danielle. I'm going to click on that so I can save that and attach that to. Oh, those toilet seat covers are awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle. I'll attach that in the post email. All right. Anyone have anything else they want to say or share? Any questions? Um, you guys have been amazing. Thank you, Shamika, for sharing. Thank you, Danielle and Laura, for being so engaged. Thank you, Marty, for all of your questions. Thank you, Dawn, for sharing as well. Nicole, you weren't super active in the chat, but I hope you took something away from it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us via email or on Instagram later on if something comes up if your questions weren't answered. So if no one else has anything to add, I won't hold you guys up. Thank you all so much for coming tonight and for listening to me ramble about my travel experiences and what's kind of helped me stay successful and independent. I really hope you take some of this knowledge and confidence and book a trip. Like I said, take a road trip to a couple hours away. Pop on a small plane for just a day. Just try something new. If it doesn't work out or if something happens, text me. Let me help try to solve it with you guys, right? Like, the best thing to do is have support. And the thing that got me through those stressful travel moments was the support of Jake and Jesse. And so let me be that Jake and Jesse for you guys. If you guys want to start traveling, I open my inbox up to you. Um, I'll attach my Instagram in the post event email as well. You're definitely welcome to connect with me, follow up with any questions, or if you have a really successful travel experience after this, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. Um, Otherwise, again, thank you guys for supporting Wheel With Me Foundation tonight. Thank you for pouring into yourselves and giving yourselves an hour for you. Tomorrow's going to be Lindsay. We're going to have a community support chat. She's amazing. She just makes you feel safe and you can talk about anything with her. So if you guys have things you want to talk about, whether that is getting back to certain types of activities or confidence or family stuff, she is great about all of that. And then Friday, like I said, is going to be our celebration day. We're going to have Tony Jacobson do a fun little DJ session. I'm excited. Dancing is therapy for me. So please come and join. Even if you join from bed and just want to listen, even if you're sitting on the couch and want to dance on the couch, please come. It's a lot of fun, and I promise you are going to feel so much better afterwards. So on that note, I will leave you guys go. Have an amazing night, and I hopefully will see you guys all tomorrow. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so